Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a visual journey to literally one of the most vibrant, visually stunning corners of all of Istanbul. I mean, just picture this for a second. A glorious tumble of pink, blue, ochre, and mint facades, all stacked gracefully up a hillside, overlooking the beautiful Golden Horn. It is absolutely a photographer's dream come true. But, how do you actually capture this magic perfectly? And maybe more importantly, how do you do it respectfully?
Okay, let's dive into this because it's pretty much the very first question everyone asks when they see these incredibly vibrant, highly photographed homes. You see these saturated, rainbow-colored walls, and you immediately wonder, well, where did this come from? Have they always looked like this? Like, what is the actual story behind this absolute kaleidoscope of a neighborhood?
Well, the history of the neighborhood gives us our answer. The architectural bones of Balat are actually quite old. We're looking at 19th century houses from the area's Greek and Jewish heyday, complete with those beautiful traditional bay windows. They're locally known as kumba. But by the late 20th century, Balat had kind of turned into a bit of a forgotten quarter. So that bright paint you see today, it's actually mostly recent. In the last few decades, as a big effort to revive the area, owners and the local municipality started repainting these historic timber and stone homes in these incredibly strong colors. And the look just stuck. It spread like wildfire and completely transformed the neighborhood. So you're essentially shooting old architecture, but dressed up in brilliant new clothes.
Here's our itinerary for today's explainer. 1. Welcome to colorful Balat. 2. The top photo spots. 3. The 1-hour walking route. 4. Best times and seasons. And 5. Pro gear and etiquette.
All right, Section 1. Welcome to colorful Balat, the lived-in reality.
Now, this is absolutely the most important mindset shift you need to make before you even pack your camera. Balat is not a theme park. It's not some built attraction created just for Instagram. The beauty of this district comes purely from its lived-in, everyday authenticity. You're going to see weathered doors, kids playing in the street, peeling shutters, and laundry strung gracefully right between old buildings. It's a living, breathing neighborhood, and honestly, that authentic, unpolished reality is exactly why it looks so incredible through a lens.
Moving on to Section 2, the top photo spots, where to point your lens.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it compresses a massive amount of geographical data into a perfect, actionable guide. I actually highly recommend screenshotting this right now. The really good news about Balat is that the best spots sit just within a few hundred meters of each other. You've got the classic row houses at Kiremit, Caddesi, the pastel staircases at Medivalna Yokos, the cafe streets filled with antique displays on Vodina and Yildirim, and of course, the quiet side lanes full of neighborhood cats. By organizing your shoot around these key spots, you could easily capture the big icons and the quiet little corners all in a single, slow morning.
And speaking of those icons, we have to talk about Kiremit Caddesi. If you've ever seen a postcard of Balat, you've seen this street. It sits right up on the hill in the upper part of the neighborhood. The big secret to shooting here, stand at the lower end and frame your shot right up the steep slope. Because of that incline, the tall painted facades magically stack into this absolute wall of color. Alternatively, there's a really great small corner cafe up at the top where you can look back down over the rooftops for a much cleaner, wider frame.
Section 3. The 1-hour walking route. Efficient photo loop.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the ultimate 1-hour walking loop. You're going to want to start right at the top, at Kiremit Caddesi for your hero shot while that morning light is still soft. Then climb to the top cafe for that downward view. From there, you just cut right across to the Medivalna Yokos. That's the Pastel staircase street. Let gravity do the work as you wander down the sidelands looking for old doorways and local cats, eventually finishing up on the cafe strips of Yildirim and Vodina Caddesi for a well-deserved coffee among the candid local life. Finally, if you happen to be there late in the day, simply drop down to the Golden Horn shore to catch the sunset. It is a perfectly seamless flow, really.
And while you're on that route, definitely keep this expert advice from photographer Sam Whitfield in mind. Look, it is so tempting to pull out the ultra-wide lens to try and capture the whole street, but don't do it. As Sam notes, an ultra-wide stretches the houses at the edges and totally distorts the architecture. A standard 35mm, or actually scratch that, even just your phone's main lens is perfect. His pro tip, stand at the bottom, wait for the street to clear for just, 3 seconds, and shoot slightly upward. That keeps those incredible facades perfectly straight.
Section 4, best times and seasons, light and timing.
Okay, if you take away just one number from this entire explainer, make it this one. 8 to 10 a.m. on a weekday. That is the absolute sweet spot. The houses here face east, so they shine brilliantly in the morning. Arriving between 8 and 10 a.m. virtually guarantees you soft, even light, empty streets, and this wonderful atmosphere of local shopkeepers just opening up for the day. Trust me, if you wait until late morning on a weekend, you're going to be fighting massive tour groups for every single frame.
The time of year dramatically shifts the mood, too. Summer and winter offer completely different canvases. Summer brings in the crowds and really harsh midday light, so you absolutely have to shoot early. But winter? Winter in Balat is an incredibly moody, beautifully quiet experience. You get these dramatic skies, and if you're lucky enough to be there during a freeze, a little dusting of white snow on top of those bright pink and blue roofs is literally pure photographic gold. Spring and autumn are excellent middle grounds, offering soft light and thinner crowds.
Oh, and a quick note on the weather. If you wake up and it's raining or cloudy out, do not cancel your trip. It's a super common mistake. Overcast light actually acts like a giant softbox. It's incredibly even, which perfectly flatters all that saturated paint and removes any harsh, distracting shadows. Plus, rain means wet cobblestones, and wet cobbles give you glorious reflections and incredible mood. Besides, the cafes are practically made for waiting out a passing shower with a hot coffee anyway.
All right, our final section, Section 5, Pro Gear and Etiquette, Executing the Shoot. Technically speaking, you really don't need massive, heavy gear here. You just need control. Try to shoot in the morning shade to keep those colors rich rather than getting blown out by the sun. The biggest trick? Expose for the bright facades, not the dark lanes. If you're shooting on a smartphone, simply tap the brightest painted house on your screen, lock the focus, and physically drag that exposure slider down just a tiny touch. That keeps the paint heavily saturated. And again, step back, shoot level, and keep your verticals straight.
This brings us to the most crucial dynamic of visiting Balat, and this brilliantly illustrates the choice you have to make. Remember, real people live behind these vibrant doors. You have a choice. Be the welcome guest or the intrusive tourist. The welcome guest shoots the houses, not into the houses. They ask before photographing a shopkeeper. The intrusive tourist, well, they block doorways, they move people's personal belongings right out of the frame, and they peer through windows. Please treat the neighborhood with grace. The local cats, however, totally fair game. They are excellent, very willing models.
Local writer Lena Avermides shares an incredible insider secret here. Buy something. Seriously, a simple, traditional glass of Turkish tea costs almost nothing. But that tiny transaction changes everything. It immediately transforms you from an anonymous tourist taking up space on the sidewalk into a patron and a genuinely welcome guest. Plus, it's honestly the best way to hear local neighborhood gossip, like which hidden lane just got a fresh coat of paint right over the steam of your tea.
So the crucial point is knowing your boundaries. And that brings us to drones. Treat them as completely off-limits. We're talking about highly dense, low-rise residential housing near sensitive historical sites. Flying a loud, buzzing drone over people's private homes where they are living, sleeping, and hanging their laundry is incredibly rude, and more than likely against local regulations anyway. Keep your camera in your hand and your feet firmly on the cobbles.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final thought. When you pack your camera for Istanbul and head up the hill from the Golden Horn, how will you walk these streets? Will you be just another tourist with a camera or a welcome guest? Armed with the route, the lighting tips, and an understanding of the history, you definitely have everything you need to capture breathtaking images. But remembering the humanity behind the painted facades, well, that's what makes the experience truly unforgettable. Thank you so much for joining me to explore the beautiful colors of Balat. Catch you next time.